no matter how much macro studies you do as a consultant, right? When the market hits you, it really hits you. According to me, there are two kinds of businesses. One is a lifestyle business, and one is a growth story business, right? A lot of Indian entrepreneurs are cash flow lifestyle businesses. You will build a great cash flow business, which will give you, 2 crores of top line per month, which is enough for you to buy your BMW and have a very nice, comfortable house. I am an IIM guy. My co-founder is an IIT guy. By now, we should be swimming in cash from VCs, right? That's not the case, dude. So generalizations are very dangerous, according to me, right? It entirely depends on what the individuals are and what their entrepreneurship aspiration is that they want to do. ShopClues was a unicorn at that time, and it was a 2-year lock-in cash plus stock kind of a deal. I wish I would have retired and become a investor by now, but got to keep the cash of it, but the stock didn't go where we intended it to go. But great experience with e-commerce, which then is the segue into the next side of the story of the next 5 years of my life.
When you did sell the company, did you feel like, I was just asking Narayan the same question, like what did you feel when you sold the company? Did you feel like, wow, I've accomplished something? Or did you feel like, okay, this is just the beginning of many more entrepreneurial ventures? What was the thought process?
It all depends on what point of time you are in, right? In a startup, you cannot do 5-year strategies. We used to do 5-year strategies in Honeywell, right? यहाँ पे 5-year strategy कुछ नहीं होता है. You need to take it quarter on quarter, year on year. It's a much more tactical play that you do. At that point in time, if you really look at it, we are consultants. We also look at what the macro situation is, right? Here's what had happened. IMPS has launched, right? People, suddenly the cost of paying through digital payments had dropped because IMPS was free, right? And payment banks had launched. Raghuram Rajan had launched this payment banks initiative where a lot of the bigwigs, which is all the telecom players, Airtel ho gaya, Vodafone ho gaya, Sun Pharma ho gaya, Tech Mahindra ho gaya, all these guys had bid and won the payments bank license as well. So all the big guys with unlimited amount of money were getting into the transaction business out there, right? Even if, and Paytm had just raised their huge Alibaba round, right? Even if we were able to get to the next level, which is a Series A or a Series B funding, the next step was going to be infinitely harder because 2 saal baad, it would be all these bigwigs who are sitting there. So this was the mindset, what we saw. And we said, maybe the faster way to do this is get an anchor, either on the merchant side or on the consumer side, and help us grow and scale this business much faster. That was the intent. We were talking to all the banks as well at the same time because they had all the anchor in terms of the merchants as well as the consumers. Of course, you know how banks work. That never went anywhere. But these conversations, what we realized was that ShopClues had the biggest merchant ecosystem out there, right? They were already at 1 lakh merchants. And when we were there over a period of 2 years, we grew it almost 4.5, 5 lakh merchants, right? So that seemed like a great space for an entry for an online plus offline payments play. And that's how, that was the thesis. Kisko pata tha ki demonetization hone wala hai, right? 8 months into getting into ShopClues, demonetization happened. So, if only, everybody told me that if only you had waited for another 8 months. Well, at that point in time, that seemed like the best thing to do. And I think we are better off for it, to be honest.
So tell us about the e-commerce journey then, now that you got out of ShopClues also.
2 years in ShopClues was fascinating because I ran the merchant ecosystem P&L. So I could see how merchants were transacting on e-commerce platforms. While everybody saw the consumer side of the story, that was a different story to see. What we realized was very, very fascinating, right? We saw what was happening on the merchant side. There were merchants building micro brands on these big marketplaces. Amazon ho gaya, Flipkart ho gaya, ShopClues हो गया, Snapdeal हो गया. We started talking to all our friends who were in each of those places. Repeat businesses हो रहे थे. Merchants were able to capture consumers with the value proposition that they were trying to talk about, and consumers were coming back to buy them, buy their products. And they were able to sell at a little bit of a premium to what a lot of the other people were selling. And this was happening big time in the fashion space. Then we started looking at the macros. Again, going back to our market study, right? Look at what evolved markets in digital have done, right? Go and look at what US has done, go and look at what China has done. What happened was, first the horizontal marketplaces came, right? Amazon ho gaya, Flipkart ho gaya. Then the vertical marketplaces came and started hitting scale. Myntra ho gaya, Nykaa ho gaya. The next step was going to be D2C, right? Where brands themselves start reaching out to consumers directly. And you could see this happening in the US. It was huge. D2C was the big story back then, right? And India, it was still evolving. D2C was unheard of at that time. Go and look at China. It is offline plus online mixed. It's not pure online. But you can see that there are brands that have been built in every possible niche of a consumer's insight, right? And that space seemed very, very exciting, right? We saw that in the next 5 years, this is where we're going to be in India. And we said, agar kuch karna hai, to ye space mein kuch karte hain. So that was the thought. After tasting First Blood as an entrepreneur, I think you can never go back to a job. That is unfortunately a problem. So yeah, intent was to start up again as soon as our lock-in was over.
But I mean, the fascinating thing here is that you think of doing businesses top down, looking at the market and all of that. A lot of entrepreneurs just start because, I mean, I started because I wanted to do something in education. And I didn't even look at the market size or what I was trying to build, etc. I didn't even realize that maybe what I was attempting was too small a market size or whatever. And I mean, I'm just trying to bring this contrast here because there are entrepreneurs like this as well. You don't need to necessarily be passionate about a sector or a particular business model. You can, like, this is also a legit way to enter industries and make them work for you. So obviously, now tell us about Flatheads, with your D2C brand, for example, this sustainable, creating products which are focusing on sustainability and on the environment. Is it something that, again, was something you picked up from somewhere? Did you, I mean, I don't think your mechanical engineering or your other payments app experiences obviously would have helped you figure a lot of these things out, right? And your co-founder still continues to be with you even in this startup as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there are two sides to that coin, right? Again, I bring because there is more, market study and numbers in my blood, I tend to bring that in. But Utkarsh is a hardcore passion guy, right? Usko dunya badalna hai. That is one thing that is always on his mind. And when we did Momo also, I don't think there were business economics that justified what we were doing. As I said, right, it was a fundraising game and adoption game, right? Fundraising because you need adoption, by the way. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं पैसे लेके किसी का, I'm belling the cat who is the next guy out there. It is more about building something that can actually change the way people behave, right? That is what excites Utkarsh, and hence it rubs off on me as well, right? And from my perspective, not only do you need to do that, you also need to figure out that the market is large enough. And it is something that is worth attacking, right? If you're a big fish in a small pond fir bhi chota hai yaar, would you rather be in the ocean where you're playing, in a much bigger game? That is what I would like to do, right? Play in something that actually matters. That is what, I would look at. So it's a combination of both for sure. Utkarsh, for example, he has 150 pairs of shoes, man. So, and he is insane. He buys shoes to cut them up and see what the material is inside. Naya juta kharid ke kaatta kaun hai yaar? That's what he does. And he buys shoes that are not even his size. So I have like 5 or 6 pairs that he has gifted to me, which he has never worn, right? Because it wasn't his size. So that's the kind of guy. He's a designer, and designers keep doing this. They have this quirk in their head, right? And they keep doing this trend spotting thing. Every time we go to a mall to watch a movie or go to a restaurant, typically we will spend at least half of that time in a footwear store, watching what models are there. And then he will do this prediction ki, ye style, next year Chelsea boots are going to be in vogue. Bola, kya bol raha hai yaar? this is not going to happen. And then next year that actually happens, whatever he says, right?
But was he doing this even before Flatheads?
Yeah. I'm talking for the entire 12 years that we've known each other, he's always done this, right? So when we started looking at D2C, the beauty of D2C is this. If you look at across industries, first we looked at food and beverage, then we looked at FMCG, and then we said fashion, ye dekhte hain, right? If you look at FMCG and food and beverage, you are dependent on a channel, right? You will not go to a website to buy Coke, right? You will not go to the Coke website to buy Coke. You will buy Coke as a basket of other food products that you will go and buy from a supermarket. Hence, Coke has to be in the supermarket to get noticed, right? So if you're a new brand in F&B and FMCG, you have to be in a place where people come and buy in order to notice you. If you look at footwear, it's very interesting. How many multi-brand outlets are there in footwear, right? You can think of Reliance Footprint, you can think of Metro Shoes or Mochi or whatever. But beyond that, there are not many, right? Every footwear brand actually is direct to consumer in the offline space as well. They have exclusive brand outlets and they're reaching out to consumers. So footwear tends to become more pure play D2C, both online and offline, right? And that was the thought process for us. It's a very different category. It's a very difficult category from a VC perspective. That is a different point. But if you really want to be in the D2C space, this is one of the best categories to be in, is what our realization was once we started studying it, studying the market, right? Having said that, in India, I think D2C is still very small. Online as a percentage, if you look at overall macros, online as a percentage, the overall shopping basket is still very, very small, right? Eventually it will hit tipping point, but that is still 5 to 7 years away. Hence, D2C is an even smaller piece of online, right? And so it is not big enough as a market. You will have to go to the marketplaces and sell on marketplaces as well. Whereas in the US now, there are companies that have gone public purely on D2C. Allbirds is a great example, right? So that story is not macro buildable in India yet. Hence, you have to be internet first, which means online, lekin marketplace mein bhi bechenge. So that is the model that is happening here. But fascinating space to be in general. Shoes mein, so here's how we thought about it, right? We wanted to build, so one of the trends, macro trends was people are moving to more casual dressing. Look at, people who generally go to work. It went from formal suits to, business casual, which is khakis and t-shirts, to now casual, polo or t-shirts and jeans, right? But if you look at shoes, they went from formal Oxfords and Derbies and brogues to semi-formal moccasins and suede leather shoes to what now? You're either still wearing those semi-formal leather shoes or you're wearing sport shoes. But sport shoes ka wo grey color ya blue color kharidoge, which doesn't look very, dhinchak for your office. There is nothing there in that space, right? We saw a very big gap in that space where he said, if I have to address the working audience, urban working audience, there is a beautiful spot to occupy saying, I make great casual shoes for casual dressing at work. That was the intent, right? Then we started deep diving into it. We said, by the way, why footwear again, as opposed to other categories in fashion like t-shirts? If you have a great graphic designer and you have a friend in Tirupur, you can make a t-shirt. It's not an engineered product, but shoes are very hard to make. It involves a lot more of understanding anthropology or anthropomorphism, whatever that word is, of the human foot in order to make a shoe. It's not that easy, right? So hence, if you look at it, FMCG or F&B mein, there is one new D2C brand born every day. But in footwear, there are probably only 4 brands that have come out in the last 2 years. It's a very hard category to build expertise in. It's an engineered product. So hence, this was a good space to take, right? Or फिर casual shoes में घुस गए, then we said, India के लिए क्या चाहिए, right? We were attacking it again from a first principles mindset, something that we learned in IITs back again, right? One thing that they teach you is fundamentally analyze problems from first principles. Application पे मत जाओ, fundamentals पे रहो, right? So when we started digging deeper into it, we said, when you feel hot in the Indian tropical climate, गर्मी होती है, when you feel hot, you're wearing t-shirts, or kurtas, right? Which is actually the most comfortable thing that you can put on your skin. लेकिन जूते को देखो, what you're wearing probably has 3 layers in it, right? Cushion के नाम पे पैर के ऊपर pillow बांध दिया है, right? That's pretty much what you've done. You put layers on your feet, but that's a microwave. Your feet are actually cooking in it. upar you're feeling nice, but your feet are still sweating, right? That's a huge problem. And once we talk to a lot of customers, everybody knows this is a problem, but you make do because this is what you have out there. We said, maybe we can change this. We can completely re-engineer a shoe to make something that is like t-shirts for your feet, right? Can I make t-shirts for your feet? That was the intent. And then we went and built it from scratch all the way again. So it took us a year and a half to build. So April 2018 is when we started. November 2019 is when we launched. But 1.5 saal laga ye banane ko, for us also to understand how shoes are made. Half the time we were in factories, in prototype shops, building prototypes and getting laughed at by stalwarts in the footwear industry. But eventually bana diya. We launched in November 2019.
But what about all this banana-based shoe, bamboo-based shoe? Ye sab funda kya hai? Is it just marketing or is there some science to this?
The science is this. When you wear a t-shirt, polyester versus cotton, which is better? Why? It is naturally breathable, right? Natural fibers are actually better for you when you wear it because it is naturally breathable, it is naturally moisture wicking, and it has a very good skin feel. There is something called a skin feel, right? You feel much better wearing it versus the synthetic polyester fiber. Jute sare polyester ke bante hain, right? When you start thinking in a direction that is t-shirts for your feet, you're suddenly moving into, can I do it in cotton? Can I do it? The reason why we did bamboo was because bamboo is one of the most friendly tropical climate fibers ever, right? Have you ever worn bamboo innerwear? Damensh makes bamboo innerwear. I'm wearing it right now. It is one of the softest things that you can wear. And once you wear it, you will never go back to cotton again, right? That's how, and it's cool to your skin because it wicks your moisture, right? So when we started thinking about it from the perspective of t-shirts for your feet, the concept of polyester did not exist, right? It eventually moved into what is the best thing that you can put on your feet, even if you have to go sockless, right? So, and that was the reason why natural fibers came in. Incidentally, it's more sustainable way of making shoes, but the core reason is it is t-shirts for your feet.
So it's actually the fact that there is utility in it, which is why you use it. It's not because there is sustainability angle. It's a coincidental thing that's happened.
Absolutely. Marketing, yes, I will definitely say it is sustainable, and that's a great thing to do.
And it is true. So got it. Now the question is, how did the name Flatheads come into being? And this is, we've had a lot of, so we run, for example, a digital marketing program at Altuni, and one of the case studies that the students were doing, and you can now analyze everything with data, and I'm sure there are people who are trying to figure out, what brand names to give, also analyzing data. But I've always found this to be something which is almost always a human choice. Every entrepreneur that I've spoken to, and it's never really a science. It's almost always some stories. Sometimes it's just sheer laziness that people name their companies whatever the name that they give. So how did you all come to Flatheads as the name for your brand?
Yeah, domain available tha. No, but more seriously, one of the learnings from Momo, right? Momo was MOMOE. It actually stood for Mobile Money Everywhere. That's what, it was a short form for Mobile Money Everywhere. But we were launching in restaurants, and Momo sounded like a very nice name to associate with restaurants. We started with restaurants and pubs, like microbreweries and stuff like that. That's where we started. The thing was, we put an E at the end, right? Everybody who saw the brand name was like, huh, इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Momo बोलते हैं, Momoe बोलते हैं, Momio बोलते हैं, Mom बोलते हैं. What is this? And it stuck in people's head, right? Now, there is a little bit of a quirk which stuck in people's mind, and once you notice that, the next time you go and see it is like, oh, that name I saw in the other place as well. It is not a simple name that you will forget. It has a little bit of that angle to it, right? We said, we need something which sticks in people's mind, right? And the second thing, our criteria was, we wanted to get a name of a community or a cult, if you will, right? Incidentally, a Flatheads engine, coming back to our mechanical engineering roots, a Flatheads engine is a high-performance engine that is used in drag racing, right? So Flatheads are people who are drag racers, who love automotive engineering, right? So from there, again, the name was derived. Flatheads also happens to be a tribe in Montana. वो बाद में पता चला. It's also a catfish in the Australian waters. वो भी बाद में पता चला. But it's also a medical condition of your head. जो मुझे पता ही नहीं था until a doctor came to us and said, ये क्यों नाम रखा है, right? The intent was to create a name that stands for a community, a cult, right? And also it associated very well with sneakerheads, like, and eventually we want to make Flatheads a brand in the lifestyle space, not necessarily on footwear alone. Footwear is the core where it starts. So we wanted to keep the name beyond just shoes, right? So the association has to be much bigger than shoes. It should be big enough to hold a much bigger portfolio. So that was the intent.
3 mistakes that you made, which you want to share with us.
No matter how much macro studies you do as a consultant, right? When the market hits you, it really hits you, right? Don't forget what's going on in the market, and don't forget what the consumer wants, right? It is, yeah, everybody with an idea as an entrepreneur thinks, yeah, idea nikal gaya, right? This is the best thing in the world. But when you get validation from the market is when it turns out to be true. And guess what? That validation doesn't come easy, right? It takes 5 years, 7 years to build a brand, right? Patience is the name of the game, is what I'm learning. That is a mistake that I have done trying to grow too fast and burning cash in my previous startups. So now there is a little more patience that we have learned, right? We know that it takes time to establish. That is one. Second, नौकरी छोड़ रहे तो यार एक अच्छा plan लेके छोड़ो, right? 6 months into Windsleeve, it was one of the worst phases of your life, or my life rather, and in Utkarsh's life as well. You're in a life stage where you have a house which entails a mortgage, you have a child. Utkarsh is 7 years older than me, so he had kids who are already in school, potentially going into college soon. And suddenly you're faced with a situation where you're not seeing monetization anywhere. You're not seeing the way to get money into your bank account anywhere, right? And then suddenly you also realize that there are employees who are working with you whose career is in your hands, right? You better figure out what you need to do and have at least a nest egg kept for a little while before you take that plunge, if you're doing the entrepreneurial plunge, is what I would say. That was one mistake that I would definitely point out. Do what you think you want to do, right? As I said, wo 5 saal ka, there is a 5-year itch, right? So first 5 years I wanted to do my tech stuff, tech as in core engineering stuff, I did that. Next 5 years I wanted to do general management, I did that. Next 5 years I wanted to do entrepreneurship, I did that, right? And now later on, the next 5 years again, I have taken the second plunge into the second level of entrepreneurship. My dad joined HAL as an engineering trainee and retired from the same job. So when I was writing my first resignation letter for Ingersoll Rand, I went to him and asked him how to write a resignation letter. He said, boss, wrong person to ask. I don't know. I've never written one in my life, right? It's a very different world now, right? You have a lot more choices to make. You have a lot more freedom to explore what you want to do. So I would say, going in, maybe if I had a little more of a bigger worldview, I would have done this entire process of 15 years, I would have accelerated a little bit to get to entrepreneurship. But तभी मुझे पता था कि I want to get into corporate, right? मुझे नौकरी करनी है. Because I didn't know any better. But now that you have a lot more information at your disposal, you can take that decision a lot faster, is what I feel, on what you really want to do. It could be doing a job. Huh? There is absolutely nothing wrong in doing a job, right? I respect people who are, my own colleagues through the 15 years of my corporate life who are doing unbelievable things right now at a much bigger scale than I am doing right now, right? I am selling 30,000 shoes. They are selling millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff and changing people's lives. People in the pharma sector and stuff like that who I know who are working there. It is, mind-blowing what your peers have been able to do in the world to make change happen. Entrepreneurship is a very small microcosm, right? Really, if you want to make a difference in the world, there are many, many ways to do it. It's not just about starting up, is what I would say. But yeah, maybe I would have made those decisions a little faster rather than being confused for the first 15 years of my life.
Awesome. So the floor is all yours, guys. A lot of questions. I'm going to start with the lady here and followed by this gentleman here.
where do you see the road ahead for this brand, especially you're in the D2C space? Do you want to continue this way, or do you want to venture more into the B2C space as well? Because what is the scale that you see in the D2C space?
As I mentioned, D2C itself is not big enough to become a brand that has decent market share. Our vision for this brand is to capture a 5 to 10% market share in the casual footwear category. That itself is a 1,000 crore business, right? Would like to get into it as soon as possible, right? In the 8-year to 10-year time frame. That's where we want to go. And it is not possible only through D2C. So yes, we are selling on Amazon, we are selling on Myntra. Incidentally, Made in India for the world is also a big story. We've launched, so banana sneakers are the first in the world that we've launched, which nobody else has done before. Linen sneakers, we are the third brand in the world to make bamboo sneakers, right? Now these are innovations that, and the shoes that we are making are as good as a $100 Clarks or a Skechers shoe in terms of the engineering spec that we put into it. Then why not sell if there is a global audience? So we are actually selling in the US, we have just launched in the UAE. So there is a Made in India for the world story as well as a brand. So it will not just be a restricted Indian brand. We are started here, but yeah, we will, the vision is to make it an international brand for sure.
Hey Ganesh, this is Vinay here. And as someone who's building a bootstrapped startup in the sports technology space, one of my primary concerns right now is the lure of getting towards a funded or a funding round is always there. LinkedIn is filled with, I got funded $1 million, I got funded $10 million. But if I was, as a bootstrapped startup and the shoestring budget that we're living with, how, in your opinion and your experience, do you transition from, yes, maybe now is a good time to seek funding, or stick around in the bootstrap space because I am possibly going to make some money at least? Should I seek a new boss or continue along?
Interesting. But great question. Huh? This is something that you battle in your head every day. According to me, there are two kinds of businesses. One is a lifestyle business, and one is a growth story business. Right? A lot of Indian entrepreneurs are cash flow lifestyle businesses. You will build a great cash flow business, which will give you 2 crores of top line per month, which is enough for you to buy your BMW and have a very nice, comfortable house. That is one way to go. Right? That is brilliant. And you will be set for life. You will build a great business that will continue generating cash flow all the time. There is the other side of the business, which is a growth business. A growth business says, I will invest all that money. I will not pay dividends to my shareholders, which is basically the founder buying his BMW. Instead, I will invest the money in growing the business as fast as possible to get to whatever your end goal is. Right? My end goal is, as I said, 5 to 10% market share in 8 to 10 years. So cash flow versus scaling is the fundamental question you need to answer, is my thought process. If you think that it is the right time for you and there is demand that will enable you to hit that scale curve, and the only thing you're missing is money, which will then enable you to hire the right resources, which will then enable you to hit the market running, then you should go and raise funds. If you think the market timing is not right, or if, one simple anecdote. There used to be one guy who used to sell authentic, healthy Gujarati food outside the Wipro office on Sarjapur Road, right? Our office was very nearby, so we used to go there all the time. Poshtik Veg Solutions, I still remember the name. This was 10 years ago. That guy, he used to make exactly 100 plates of food every day for lunch. And half the Wipro employees from the office used to go there and eat there. And brilliant food, and he was probably a 30-year-old, right? Very enterprising guy. We went and asked him, कि यार तुम सिर्फ 100 क्यों बनाते हो? Why don't you make more? Because this is unbelievable food. You should have franchises all over the place. He said, nahi, I am happy. I want to make 100. I want to keep the quality as high as this. And I want, this runs my house very well, right? This is what I want. And I will make this a premium proposition. But this is what I want to do. That's a great lifestyle entrepreneur, and respect for building something that is unbelievable, right? Same way, you need to make the decision on whether you want to build that lifestyle cash flow business or you want to go the growth curve. That's pretty much it. Right?
The entire conversation you iterated twice, like the people who are from IT and IIMs and then they are starting up, they actually have a backup, like let's say 2 or 3 years down the line when the startup is not working well, or like the not proper MVP or whatever, they have a strong backup, a decent job can still be provided. So, and during the Shark Tank episode, I saw Ashni Grover speaking that when founders come to me who are from IT, IIMs, I'm little scared about them because they might not go an extra mile to put that energy because they have a strong backup of getting a job. So is it actually true? I mean, like the people who start up, like, I mean, from the like you are from IIM, you started now you have the network and everything, and you still have like the backup as well, but you didn't go back to any such job and just keep on starting different companies.
Yeah, generalizations on and stereotyping of folks is very, very, I don't know. I find it very funny, right?
Where do you get your hunger from, Ganesh? You are IIT IIM. तुम में तो hunger ही नहीं होगा यार. तुम तो पूरा पेट भरा हुआ है तुम्हारा.
Exactly.
It is up to the individual, yeah, to be honest. There are a lot of stories that IIT IIM entrepreneurs get funded all the time. There are, IIT IIM entrepreneurs are the guys who end up burning VC money while everybody says, wow, kya banaya hai. Yaar, yes, there is a network, right? Yes, there is a network of accomplished people in your circle who you have access to. That will open that door. Guess what? We have not raised VC funding yet for Flatheads. Flatheads was launched in November 2019. It is a footwear startup in a space where there were 3 waves of pandemics where people were not getting out of their house. My traction has been shit. I could have been much bigger, but now I have not made it as much as I would have liked to be in the last 3 years. We have not raised VC funding. Does it, I am an IIT IIM guy. My co-founder is an IIT guy. By now we should be swimming in cash from VCs, right? That's not the case, dude. So generalizations are very dangerous according to me, right? It entirely depends on what the individuals are and what their entrepreneurship aspiration is that they want to do. And by the way, talking about backups, right? If you have absolutely no money saved in your bank, right? And you want to start up, you will always be thinking about plan B. अगर ये नहीं चला, तो 3 महीने में मैं सड़क पे आ जाऊंगा. I will have to do something to at least pay for my food on the table, right? So you will always be thinking plan B. And by the way, the minute you start thinking plan B will happen. Plan A will not happen. You will not be able to focus on plan A as much as you would have liked to. Some people have the luxury of saying, I already know that plan B will happen no matter what. तो मुझे plan B के बारे में सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है. I will focus full time on plan A because I don't want to worry about plan B at all. Is that a better place to be? I think it is, right? Even when Windsleeve died, I still had the capability to go in and do something again in the entrepreneurship stint. Respect for both our families. They have supported us financially and they have supported us emotionally through the journey. Without my wife and without Utkarsh's wife, we don't know where we would have been as entrepreneurs. We would have probably been going back to a job. But that luxury is afforded to us by the support of our ecosystem. Why would I not do entrepreneurship? And why would I not focus on plan A when I don't need to worry about plan B? I am saying the opposite of what you're saying. I would definitely focus more energies on making this successful because this is my life work. It is not कि मुझे बैंक में पैसा चाहिए because that is already figured out. I really need to figure out how do I make a difference in my own life and probably to the larger ecosystem out there. That's what I would focus on.
Absolute pleasure to have you here, Ganesh. Guys, a big round of applause for Ganesh.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.